Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. The title is How Could the Future Be Scared? I mean, seriously, how could the future be scared? That means we are scared for what will happen in the future, but when we get to the future, it's a different moment than how we were perceiving the fear. In this episode, I would like to look at the notion of fear as if fear was an engine. We pulled up the hood to kind of look at what it is, and what can we do about it. Anytime I attempt to try to comprehend that noise, by the way, guys, those are insects. I can't do anything about it. Excuse me, I got interrupted. Sorry, guys, please excuse the pauses in the middle. The concepts are where the show's at. So I'll tell you this. Anytime I decide to study anything, it could be like I thought about it, what could be a model to human existence that works? And I realized that it should be a model, it should be a method that anywhere the place, if the person, like a kitten, was taken by a higher dimensional being, imagined playfully, and was thrown into anywhere in the universe. That means I thought about it, all right, this round we find Earth, this kind of evolutionary setup. But how many other ways have there been? How many ways are there? How many ways are creature existing in the moment? If we were to study the dimensions of human existence, we look at the words human and being. Everybody can acknowledge this. The word human and being. When we look at the human part, we come to the design of the world, which I would tell you is the objective component. What that means is the objective component means that we have a difference between feeling we're objects and feeling we're subjects. Anytime a person feels like a subject, there's a subjective view. Anytime a person feels like an object, you can say, or notices an object, that's an objective view. I'll give you an example. For example, in Western culture, I've seen this happen, where, for example, a man finds a woman attractive, goes up to her, but the way he comes across is um, too intense or whatever. So what happens is what we tend to see, especially from the feminist ideal and those who are criticizing the patriarchy, what we find is that the girl says, "Don't objectify me." What the fuck? You know, don't objectify me. Okay. Now, what we don't tend to see is that we don't see the guy turn around to the girl and be like, "Don't subjectify me. Don't assume I'm that subject. If you don't want me to assume you're that kind of object, don't assume I'm this kind of subject." Do you see? So the object component of our intelligence relates to the human design and relates to what is in front of our eyes. I have termed this the outer realms. And then I noticed that when we look at the word human being long enough, you notice the being part. And being is such a mysterious concept. Can anyone teach you how to be? You see, no. Nobody can teach you how things are being. You just are. You know, you notice it. It's not something you can teach. Existence, you don't teach, but experience, things that relate to experience. Experience can be said to be a higher dimensional use of existence. So our being is how we are a subject. It's the subjective realm, and it's not based on design, it's based on space. So the outer realms are based on matter. You got to study how matter is being. But when it comes to the inner realms, the person has to study space, believe it or not. And what that space comes to is actually, I don't know how many people have tried this in their life, but there was a moment in my life where I mean, a couple moments in my life where I tried, where I sat down still and had no expectation of time. It's as if it was as if for a moment I sat down and there was no time. My attention wasn't on the concept. After a while, when a person is still and silent, it's again like the ripples of the pond settling. When we become still, we experience ourselves as a pure subjective rhythm. I would say when we move, we experience ourselves as a pure objective manifestation, objective form. We are the game of forms in the void. That seems to be where the meaning of the human being is. You know, ever since I noticed binary, sometimes I've thought as a metaphor, it's like imagine, look at the world. People fighting over who the truth is rather than actually living in the world and building it, you know? You know what the most craziest thing would be? If so many people on this planet are trying to find truth and it's not something you can find. It is not something you can contain. It is the wilderness of a cosmos in motion. When it comes to the future and time, we are an object. We are an object that is taking subjective snapshots of itself. As it stabilizes in one subjective snapshot, it then can identify what is changing as the new moment comes in. So we can say change and time and how time is going forth. It is actually how attention is jumping from image to image. Your inner life is how you're accepting your uh, physical moment as meaning, as symbol. That means when I look at the color red, those letters are added to it. It's like you think the color red has a name. You think red has a, we call it red, but do you think the color on its own has a name? It just is. That means it's fascinating. We care to explain how, like, the particles in the moment are, we don't care to explain what the color means. It's like, what does blue mean? What does red mean? What is the life purpose of the color green? You see, it's just there as paint, and sometimes I feel we are like just the brush. The world is the paint, we are the brush, and what is painting is the magnificence of an unknown universe. So, guys, in the chat section, welcome everybody. Daily Good Vibes has decided to enter the chat. Uh, always look positive to the future. Oh my God. Hey man, we can't always look positive. You look positive to the future, you get fooled. You should have no opinion on the future until it arrives. Not that no opinion. I mean, like, there's some people who want the outer realms to go exactly as the inner realms. Impossible. Those who have understood the nature of the outer realms is separate from the inner realms, they are no longer at any sort of linguistic war. They have let go of language. They have served their time on that battlefield. I feel the future hasn't been even born yet to be scared of the future. The future can never be scared of the future. You know, the future cannot be scared. In the same way, when I was born, I wasn't scared. I was born in a way where I was just comfortable. I accepted this is how the world looks, okay? That's a street, that's a car, that's a building. It was just like you don't have a comment. You see, a lot of people, they want to change themselves, but it's like this. It's like if you ask someone, can you change the world? The person would be like, oh my God, man, that's too much, like impossible. But then you say, can you change yourself? The person's like, yeah, I can change myself. Then you're like, can't you see yourself as a part of this world? That as you change yourself, you have changed the world, a part of the world, you know. I'll tell you, this is something very interesting I noticed in the psychology of religious communities. There are types of religious people, you can say, they feel God is like a sort of like they are more focused on sin than the deed, for example. Do you know? That means some people look at this world and they're like, all right, we're trying not to mess up here. This world isn't ours, it's God's. So we're not trying to mess up here. Just listen to the rules and be a good boy. Be a good boy till the end of time. And so the issue The issue with that mindset, I'll get to that, but I'll tell you the second. The second mindset is those who are like, if they still believe in God, but then it's the justification of it through deed, as if God made this universe for us. For who else did he make it? So we are here to use this universe, to be bold, to go and get engaged, to go and see beyond its corners what lies there. This whole thing of the positive negative, it has gone too far. It's so archaic. you know Good people, bad people, what is this? It's just moments of attention, and if the person does something bad, they get branded as bad. If they do something good, they get branded as good. It has nothing to do with who they are, because on some level nobody has enough understanding to know what they're doing. That means if you were to index the whole universe, that means before I could imagine someone's like, hey, Mr. Within, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you want me to empirically kind of explain? And the person's like, yes. And then I'll be like, that's impossible, because we got to go index the whole cosmos and then relate everything I'm saying to that index, which is impossible, because there's literally black holes in the cosmos. Like, we thought temporal life was weird. We suddenly noticed there's black holes. What I have noticed as a trend going on in civilization, similar to the difference between those two religious mindsets I told you, is just allowance, or another way of saying it is existential allowance or internal authorization. You see, there are some things that you can't move. Like if I look at this tree in front of me, I can't just like for a second raise my finger instantly and suddenly all the trees in the yard, get levitated off the soil and the roots are hanging in the air. It's like it's like that's not the outer realms can't be played with too much. They're just the road to walk on, I would say. The inner realms is really where the free will has stretched its wings. That means you might not believe it, but if you close your eyes, something interesting can happen. I'll tell you, whoever's listening, let's try an exercise. Close your eyes and try to see a sunset that you actually saw in your life, like an actual moment in the sky you saw. Do you know? What can be said? The void has an opportunity to be a shape again. What can be done in the inner realms is, first of all, think of it that your whole life in the conscious waking state is your meditation, poetically. That the moment you wake up, the objects of your meditation and the subjects of your meditation are there. Usually when a person wakes up in the morning, it's objective landscape and a sort of silence and stillness depending on the dream life you have. But when you wake up in the morning, if the person, just like how Maximus from the movie Gladiator soaked his hands in dirt before he picked up the sword to fight in the gladiator arena, it's like we must pick up silence and stillness in the morning and get acquainted with it, and then the greatest movements and sounds will emerge throughout the day. There's a very lovely quote from a man named Hafiz. The Sufi mystic poet from 700 years ago, from a place called Shiraz in what is now known as Iran. Hafiz said, "Fear is the cheapest room in the house. I would like to see you living in better conditions." Now, one thing Hafiz could have also added was not just a house, the cosmic house. Any being, any creature that has a fear, they get pulled to a state which is unnecessary. That means, who knew? We have reached a time where we are fearing fear being fear. I would say that one thing that the metaphysical, the mystical traditions, and I'll grant it to the religious traditions as well, is that they have managed to keep something unknown for themselves. That means when the universe has a God, it's like, okay, then what is our mind doing? Like, we don't know what the mind of the universe is. It's an unknown mind. If the universe, you can say, or let me say it like this, and the mystic is noticing that unknown. We are trying to know something that we cannot contain. You know what a lot of people don't realize is that the future, the way they live now, is designing how the future remembers the past. So technically, living for the future is not the best strategy. It's not the best strategy, even though it may be necessary at times. And you know, I have never said in my talks that in an advanced civilization, time is only going to be linear. I have seen a civilization where time is not an issue. We have evolved to a point of play. We don't see it now. Right now, we're still fighting over language and shapes, you know, and colors. But once we get past that phase, when we can drop the coloring book of the past, we will come to the designer's table of the now. In the now, and I will, Mr. Within will officially, like a tour guide, introduce everyone listening to this and who will listen. The now is where the greatness of man has been eternal. The now is the value of life. And if you don't realize the now, there is no victory. The future is not necessarily a victory. We cannot see it. The past, it's done. Even if it was a lost victory, it doesn't matter. It's literally like those files have been deleted. Not deleted, but you know what I mean. Like they don't exist. So it's strange. We kind of got to be timelessly building the future, like advancing civil, preparing for the future. So what that means is, instead of us, I mean, this is something I'm every day I'm doing research and studying, trying to figure out hidden angles to this view. But when I think of an advanced civilization, I don't see a civilization at war. I don't see a civilization fighting. I don't see a civilization that's angry. But I do see a civilization that's wondrous, that's excited, that's skillful, that is kind. You see, we got to think of it this way. Let's say there were all the planets in our solar system were populated. Let's say in an invisible dimension, there were endless in a yin yang invisible dimension. There were endless planets. All the other planets in the solar system were filled with beings, imagine, except Earth. Honestly, idealism breaks down when the person notices that the direct experiencer is watching the indirect existence. So believe it or not, we are existing through experience first, which could imply that our minds are here than our bodies, which could imply a machine that is simulating reality. But the machine is actually mind, what it's simulating is matter. Now, this transcends just the personal domain. I'll tell you something chaotic, but I think the world has seen enough chaos for now. You know, that it's like, this is not going to bother people, but really, imagine a chaos. Alright, I'll share it. In the year 2017, I wrote a sci-fi. I started a sci-fi novel which I haven't yet completed. This science fiction work of mine, I titled it Lords of Chaos. Anyways, in this work of mine, science fiction work, I titled it Lords of Chaos. I made a character inspired, believe it or not, by Greek mythology. I called the character Kronos, and if you were to see this like a movie, you would see a man, not a man, but a sort of, you would see. Sorry, guys, the insects are coming out. This is speaking on the porch. I gotta relocate, so let me relocate. I'll be back in a few minutes to finish the story. Okay. Pretty much, guys, this idea of the Lords of Chaos, I saw in my inner realms. I wrote this in 2017. This very, in my mind, what appeared to be a sort of inconceivable, yet still fathomable kind of being, higher dimensional being in the universe, and it's like a close up from the hand of the guy, and you see three planets, one green, one blue, one red. And what happens is this man chooses one of them, and that planet, I have chosen it to be Earth. You know, the Lord of Chaos, the whole universe is divided between a God of order and a God of chaos. These are known in the book as Lords of Chaos and Lords of Order. The Lords of Order and Chaos are siblings. The Lord of Chaos has the authorization of all chaotic dimensions of existence. That means both the Lord of Chaos and Order get to see all dimensions that have chaos and order. Now, the way the science fiction story starts, it's one of the most, high-level science fiction I've attempted. The Lord of Chaos has two disciples there, and what happens is he's teaching them a technique, if I remember correctly. Oh my god, let me find this, guys. Hold on. Alright guys, I can't find it, unfortunately. But pretty much the story is that this Lord of Chaos, he's taking two of his disciples and he's teaching this technique, which is the Apocalypse Bringer. And it's this technique he teaches every billions of years. They're timeless beings. And so what happens is two of his disciples are ready, and so he goes there, and what he does is they instantly appear in the planet he chooses out of the three, and they appear right outside of its atmosphere. And they're just hovering in space. And so the Lord of Chaos gives a speech, which I can't remember now exactly what I wrote in it. But then what he does is he takes the two disciples and he puts them in his eyes, literally. That means his disciples are looking each from one of his eyes. And so as he goes, what he does is his whole being goes to the eyes of this girl in her like late 20s, just there standing in the middle of society. And remember, I told you it's the Apocalypse Bringer technique. What happens is suddenly he's the Lord of Chaos, Kronos. That's the Lord of Chaos's name. And so what happens is to Kronos is that Kronos goes into the eyes of this girl and the whole world starts to get destroyed. Everything gets destroyed and this girl is just shocked. Everything gets destroyed. Her whole planet gets destroyed except for the little chunk of rock that's underneath her foot. And she's just hovering in space. Then her whole body stops existing. And there's nothing. Pure nothing. You know? And so the next scene you see the whole planet is gone and suddenly Kronos appears out of the void and he takes out his two disciples from his eyes and they're standing there in front of him. And right before he's about to say something to his disciples, he hears this crying. He hears this subtle crying. And it's the soul of that girl who he went through to do the Apocalypse Bringer technique. And the girl's soul, the way I remember writing this, what happens is she cries, and he's right there before he talks to his two disciples. He notices the tears of this like crying soul, ethereal, ghost-like thing moving in the void of space towards it. And what he does is he instantly pushes his two disciples into a different dimension, and he's there alone with the girl. And he says, "How do you see me?" Because he's a Lord of Chaos, he knows everything. And there's something special about this soul that is neither from order, neither from chaos. But what happens is Lord of Chaos, Lord Kronos, what he does instantly is that he brings his two disciples out and he says, "This is my new daughter." And he adopts her and he puts his palm on her forehead and imbues her. Oh, sorry, I forgot one part. He says that she is his daughter. Do you know? And what he does is he suddenly manifests the most beautiful body in the cosmos for her. Do you know? And then he puts his palm on her forehead and imbues millions of years, billions of years of knowledge about the chaotic realm. He pretty much brings her above even some of the disciples, the two disciples that were there. Now, what happens at the end of the story? This is a whole book. I'll tell you the ending though. She becomes the Lord of Chaos, but the next time she does the same thing, but she goes to the girl and she hugs this girl on another planet. You know? The whole point of the story was that the Lords of Chaos too move beyond chaos. And guys, there's more to the story because I remember I sat down and I designed their journey back into the chaotic realms. And their enemies, they have enemies. Their enemies are the Voidborn. Do you know? Which is something that, to be honest, I haven't even. I remember just making a skeleton of the story, not the structure, overall detail of it. But The future is unknown. We can't fear it. The past is over. It's gone. We can't fear it. All fear is arising from the now. And I think it's arising because we think we're thoughts. For me, the world pretty much has three directions. Either you animate its meaning in accordance to the past, either you animate its meaning due to the potential visuals of the future, sub-visuals of the future, or you trust the moment. Trust is an ultimatum of intelligence. That means if you had two people, one of them was not skilled but trusted the moment, and one of them was skilled and didn't trust the moment, you can guess who dies in battle first. The person who has skill but doesn't trust the moment, it's as if you're not a warrior, you're an appearance. Now imagine we build a civilization where we have skill and then trust. We trust our strength. We trust the elements that have arose as the human being. Tonight I would like to go into a quote tunnel of Guru Padmasambhava. Guru Padmasambhava is, you can say, pretty much at the age of 8, he just arose. He wasn't born. He arose as an 8-year-old child into the realm on a lotus flower in a pond, and then he started enlightening like the water spirits, and then a king was passing by, you know, and the king adopts him, you know. This what I'm saying. The previous story was science fiction. This is Guru Padmasambhava's, like, this is Tibetan Buddhist lineage. So anyways, alright guys, these quotes are from Guru Padmasambhava. You may speak like the lion of speech, Manjushri, but unless you take to heart the primordially pure nature of resounding emptiness, that will not prevent the ripening of karma. So take to heart the primordially pure nature of empty resounding. Guru Padmasambhava says, you may have the bravery of a strong fighter, but unless you possess the intelligent strength of discriminating knowledge, you will not turn the tide in the battle with samsara. So possess the intelligent strength of discriminating knowledge. You may possess the power and might of a world ruler, but unless you gain mastery over your own mind, when the time of death arrives, you still haven't attained the power of freedom. So gain mastery over your mind. You may try to support your family and friends, but at the time of death, all other actions beside the virtuous practices of Dharma activities will have been pointless. So constantly apply yourself to spiritual practices in thought, word, and deed. You may consume all kinds of delicious food, but unless you adhere to the nectar of the inner nature, it all turns into a heap of filth. So drink the nectar of the profound instructions. You may gather wealth and possessions, but only the two accumulations can be enjoyed after. Death. So gather the two accumulations as much as you can. The two accumulations, I'm not sure what Buddhic concept it's referring to. But it's not made clear either, so if anybody doesn't know, the two accumulations, I think it's the insights. Is it 2 or 3? Okay, anyways, your castle of earth and stone may be beautiful, but unless you dwell in the fortress of the unchanging, you must depart and leave it behind. So keep to the fortress of the unchanging. You may pursue worldly fame and gain, but unless you follow the teachings of the Buddha, such activity will only be the cause for throwing you back into further samsara. So adhere to the teachings of the Buddha. When you keep company with an eminent master, his qualities will automatically influence you. When your appearance conforms with worldly conventions, you will encounter less criticism. When your mind looks into itself, dharmata will dawn from within. When you recognize the nature of mind, fabrication and effort are naturally free. When you realize that samsara and nirvana are dharmakaya, you need not put effort into meditation practice. Fortunate ones, mingle your mind with the Dharma, and the happiness of Buddhahood will manifest within you. When asked about the importance of receiving teachings on dedication, what is this I'm reading? Oh, teachings on dedication, yeah. Guru Padmasambhava says, if you want to know your past life, look into your present condition. If you want to know your future life, look at your present actions. I am present in front of anyone who has faith in me, just as the moon casts its reflection effortlessly in any vessel filled with water. The eagle that is flying high in the sky should not forget that it should come down one day to see its shadow. Wow. Empty cognizance of one taste, suffused with knowing, is your unmistaken nature. The uncontrived original state. When not altering what is, allow it to be as it is, and the awakened state is right now spontaneously present. Guys, there's some quotes about okay, I'm just going to read the quotes. Guru Padmasambhava says, my realization is higher than the sky, but my observance of karma is finer than the grains of flour. Guru Padmasambhava says, now when the bardo of dying dawns upon me, I will abandon all grasping, yearning, and attachment, enter undistracted into clear awareness of the teaching, and eject my consciousness into the space of unborn Rigpa. As I leave this compound body of flesh and blood, I will know it to be a transitory illusion. And people think Tibetan Buddhism is just only about compassion. There's so much more, guys. There's so much more. You know, to go back to the topic, how could future be scared? And we can say, how could the future be scared of itself? You see, it's impossible to be afraid of something that hasn't happened yet. That's the cool thing. And when there's an effort from the inner realms to the outer, imagine we master that, and from the outer realms to the inner, we master that. You see, let us say living life is like flying, like how a bird flies, and one wing of the bird is how the mind moves the body and how mind moves matter, and the other wing of the bird is how matter moves mind. And the bird has to synchronistically move the two wings at the same time to have access to flight. That means if you see, birds are so used to their hands being synchronized that it's like the bird can't doesn't just move one of its wings. If it attempts to move one of its wings, it's going to be both of its wings. In the trenches of time and space, the matter, the meaning of life can change in an instant. I think about how the future generations will remember 2020. 2020 is one of the most rarest years. It's 2020. I honestly feel that language is hollow. I feel that there has been an experiential moment of being that, regardless of what language given to it, regardless of who teaches it or who thinks it can be known, everything returns to the unknown. In another science fiction work of mine, there was a character named General Gabriel of the Galactic Interstellar Unit. And he has this quote which echoes on through the whole story. And the quote is, "None can avoid the unavoidable void, but humanity's glow shall never perish." I think it's time that we look at our life as different. Uh, I mean, here's the thing. I feel just like how neurons are moving in our brains, if we built a society where we were moving that efficiently somehow, I think for the first time there's coming a requirement to build a fractal civilization. A civilization that anybody who sees its design, they are comprehending the nature of the microcosm and the macrocosm. You know, sometimes I think all the time that human beings have been giving to listening to the past is all the time that should have been used for a new human being's emergence. Not that we, I mean, imagine an educational system where children, they can only graduate if they create a new concept. Imagine. You cannot pass any grade in the educational system until you create a new concept. The future is a luxury that we will only have if we can maintain the present. And to maintain the present means to tap into how you are a natural being with the environment. Then you are whatever ideology that approaches you. Who is that is staring at itself in the mirror? Is it an object? Is it a subject? Can it be 100% certain as an object? Can it be 100% certain as a subject? And when we realize it can't, what do we do with a situation where we can't do anything? We revert to nature's mind. Because really, it's like if it was truly real for us, that it took us 4 billion years to evolve and different millions of years it took for different parts of the brain, and at the same time there was the randomity of the choice of this evolutionary creature at the same time as an influence. Like sometimes I think, what if like a hilarious theory on evolution would be that there was an ape, there was a chimp that was like walking just in a field, and suddenly a spaceship landed, but the person who was moving the spaceship, the alien that was moving the spaceship, didn't have good parking skills, and so suddenly this ape had a bit of radiation from the engine of the spacecraft, imagine, hit it, and that set into order an evolutionary chain of events. How hilarious. The future is going to be unknown. The past is gone, technically unknown. Only the present moment is known. So if you get comfortable with the unknown, you're comfortable with your future and your past, and you chill out in the present. That's like the poet Sadi says, this world is like a ball of yarn that has no beginning or end. It's just rolling in the void. That means our movement and noise generation as a creature is proportional to our personality, our animate intelligence's expression. You know, when we actually, here's the thing, there's this view that regardless of the perspective, a creature in a world should just be fascinated at somewhere. It's as if the person was at the dinner table and they're like, what are you thankful for? It's like, I'm thankful for existing right now when so many people don't exist and so many people haven't been born yet, you know? And we can't see the edge of the sky and we don't know anything as a species, but I'm very also thankful for this food on the table. Oh man, there's so much work to do that sometimes it's as if it's just the only command left is just trust the world and then move in it. What else can you do? What else can life's emergence be? Because skill without trust is impossible. Skill may be cultivated in moments of distrust, but to consciously express anything, you have to trust yourself as an energetic phenomena, even. You know, to trust your attention as the light in the room. You know. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna end the talk here. Thanks for listening, and I'm gonna hang around in the Discord for a little while. And if silence is my teacher, I will return to the void beyond cyberspace. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. I'm gonna I'm gonna end the stream. Take care.